Everyone, and welcome. We are very excited to host our third session today with BD in Web3. BD in Web3 is a community for BD professionals in Web3 and crypto space. Today, we're going to talk about the burning aspect of the growth when you are a BD and how to navigate your career advancement and opportunities in the space right now. So it's really a pleasure to be your host. My name is Ksenia. I am a co-founder of BD in Web3. I'm also an ex-BD at Binance. And Daria, please.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm also co-founder, a second one of BD in Web3. I'm also former BD lead of 0x, and I run a bunch of community initiatives, also meetups in Dubai, and co-organizer of East Riyadh. But today we want to focus on the most hard to find people in the industry. So basically people who help to get you jobs. And let's do some intros. Then how about we start with you?
Sure. Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here. My name is Dan. I'm the founder of Uptop Search. We do recruiting for, Web3, DeFi, crypto, all the above. And I also do a little podcast back here called Docs Radio. And recently just launched a crypto career bootcamp called Placement Labs, which is aimed at helping people in TradFi and Web2 pivot and align their profiles for the job they want in Web3. So check out placementlabs.xyz for that. Thank you.
Evan?
Hi, I'm Evan. I've been with Objective Paradigm 19 years. I run our fintech and crypto practice. We tend to focus on projects that are just getting off the ground, a few employees up to a few hundred, somewhere in that range. We focus across tech, BD, pretty much cover all roles in the space, and happy to spend the time and invest time in people that I can't place for a fee if it helps them and obviously helps build the network. So I don't root against other agencies. I hope they all do well. I know there's plenty of work to go around, so I want to also say that on the record.
Great. And we have the top team here today from DeFi, number one protocol, Lido. So Max and Dasha, can you please also introduce yourself?
Hey guys, my name is Dasha, as already announced, and I'm responsible for HR for people and culture projects for Lido DAO.
Hey everyone, I'm Max. I contribute to the Lido DAO, and I contribute client acquisition services broadly. I look after the selection process and everything for contributors towards the DAO.
Awesome. Guys, I think we can kick in with our first question. We promise to ask a lot of tricky ones today, and audience also feel free to join with the questions. So our first question, I guess I will ask Evan first. How would you describe the state of job market in DeFi for business development today?
That's a good question. So I would say it's very competitive. We're in a bear market still. So from my perspective, the types of people that are really getting good looks right now tend to have a good background in the space, tend to come from a reputable project. Very different landscape. If you look back a year and a half, there were people that were coming from outside the space that were able to break in. You're not seeing that as much. If I were a candidate seeking an opportunity in the space, I would recommend doing the same thing that we all do in the room, all the recruiters here, and that's qualify the opportunity, because there are a lot of roles that have been open for an extended period of time. So I'm not quite sure that all of them are real. So, you definitely want to keep that in mind. You want to get an understanding of why the search needs to get filled, when they want to fill the search, what the expectations of the role are. The landscape has definitely changed. The cycle from getting somebody from start to finish takes longer than it has in the past. And from my perspective, from comparing like BD to development, I think that the the searches are in BD tend to be less structured than they are on the technical side. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So if you get an understanding of like what the process is and how you're going to get your candidacy from start to finish, I think that will give you a really good understanding of, you know, how real the role is. But you know, that's basically my answer.
Interesting. And then, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I would say everything Evan said is definitely true. In addition to that, I think one thing that's kind of obvious but worth noting is like, you know, not every project that's coming to the light today is like Lido. You know, big, successful, like safe, stable track record and everything like that. A lot of these new DeFi projects that are popping up, you know, are not able to raise $20+ million, right? And it's you know, that being said, like a lot of the, you know, there's plenty of good projects coming out that are just raising maybe 3 to 7 mil, and you know, it's still a risk. So what I would say is it's high risk right now for BD and DeFi. Like you don't know which projects are going to necessarily be successful or not. So, you know, we're finding really qualified BD people, you know, from big protocols like a Lido or a 0x, take, you know, jobs at companies that are lesser known, because you have to take that kind of risk right now if you're committed to being here in Web3. So that's one thing I would say.
Yeah, I will agree 100% with what Dan said. I'm seeing a lot more interesting projects in that $3 to $10 million raise range. A year and a half ago, I was scared to work with those firms. I'll be honest, but now, I mean, the just the quality of those projects in that range and that size range is just, you know, it's remarkable. So there definitely is a lot of promise from that perspective.
Max, Dasha, what's your take here? I have some comments, but I want to hear everyone first.
Yeah, my comments kind of follow what Evan was saying in a way that during market downturns, only the best get investment, the best projects and best protocols get investment. So the investment hypotheses have to be very, very strong to attract investment to be able to move forward. So you actually have a much lower volume of opportunities, but those opportunities tend to be of much higher quality. And that's an interesting challenge in a job market, as someone say who's looking for a next role or something, because you're not looking at as many roles out there. There's much more competition for those roles, but actually the benefit is they're probably much higher quality of roles in the market because you're not in this in the wild market. But yeah, just on the comment of like how would I compare it to like the technical market? I actually think it follows that in a way that investment broadly is what, and growth is what leads job opportunities. So I think it's certainly in my mind they follow quite well one another, like of BD jobs versus say more technical roles.
Interesting. Dasha, anything to add here?
I think Max covered. I just wanted to add from, you know, the in-house perspective that we have benefits as being well known in the market, so we can attract like best contributors for the roles, which is great, and that is why the referrals also work quite well for, in our case, for Lido projects.
Yeah, I actually completely agree with what you have said, and I wanted to continue the conversation by the question. So what advice can you give to BD professionals that actually would like to shift from the Web2 space to Web3 now that the competition is getting tougher, even for professionals that are in the space for quite a while? Maybe, I'm not sure who would like to tackle it first. I would like probably to ask Dan. Yeah.
Well, my answer is short and sweet for this one. Don't even think about it.
Dan,
why?
Yeah, not a good time.
Can you elaborate?
Hot take. I know, not a good time to transition from Web2 to Web3. Even though I just promoted my course that I'm teaching of how to transition from Web 2 to Web 3. For BD specifically, realistically speaking, like there's, you know, a ton of super high quality candidates floating around the market right now that have, you know, really strong experience that you're going to have to be competing with. And, you know, I would say the only caveat to what I just said is, you know, if you're working in like institutional sales and you're targeting the same type of client in Web 2 that you would be in Web 3. For example, if you work at like a prime broker, excuse me, in Web 2, and your clients are in TradFi, excuse me, and your clients are hedge funds, you could definitely come to an institutional, you know, crypto prime broker that also needs to sell to hedge funds. Like, you know, you're selling to the same exact person. That's fine, because your experience and your network is directly relevant to what we'll be doing in Web 3. The problem is, for obvious reasons, there's not a lot of institutional crypto roles at the moment. So we're here talking more about DeFi, so we'll keep it DeFi. And I would say there's just such a strong roster of talent in the market right now that it's not a great time to make a transition.
Right. And Max, Dara, you want to add up to this?
Yeah.
It's a
Sure.
mic drop. It's a mic drop. What can you say?
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Do you want me to go? All right.
Yes, please.
Well, I agree with Dan. I think there's a couple of things here. So like my advice would be to plan ahead. Like if you're going to run a marathon, you're not going to run 26 miles on the first training day. So like join Discords, figure out what you're interested in, read, you know, pick up a couple books, follow influencers on Twitter. I mean, you know, think of it in the sense of a long game. So I wouldn't just try and jump in. I think you really need to get, you know, vested in the space and educate yourself. Maybe expect that to be a 3 to 6 month window before you're in a position where you can actually take on an interview and carry a conversation. And the other piece is like what Dan was saying about like how people from like finance can work their way into blockchain. You have to think about what your angle of attack is. Like if you're in enterprise security sales, it might be an easier, you know, transition to go work on the custodial side of Web3 because you have a background in security. So, you know, it just depends on what your angle of attack is and really what you think can fit if you don't have the experience. But yeah, I mean, I was seeing in the bull run, just, you know, people left and right were coming into the space without the experience. Even on the technical side, it was just, you know, they were getting hired left and right outside of Web3. Now that's a lot more difficult. There's just more to pick from. There's more product available and there's more time that has gone by and there's more people that have experience in the space. So they're picking within. So yeah, it is much more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly much more difficult for people trying to get into the industry. And I mean, Dan's hot take is like, it's kind of like, it's brutally true in some senses, but there is exceptions to the rule, right? And people can be an exception to the rule. And like, I don't necessarily disagree with the hot take. It's just like, it's just, my advice, say if you're like pure Web 2, pure TradFi person, you want to get into DeFi like Web 3, then I will agree with Dan. It's going to be really hard, right? So like the only way you can get that leg up is normally you're well networked, you know lots of people in the industry already. Someone's willing to take that chance on you because as everyone's saying, like, there's just such good talent like free in the market because of the amount of change. And my advice to someone would be, you know, get to conferences, get involved in the industry, you know, meet lots of people, talk to lots of people, because, you know, it's a tough gig out there.
Yeah, like that's true. I agree, but like you got to set realistic expectations, and I don't think you should. And honestly, the reason why I say it such a, you know, in such a direct form is like, you know, by the way, I say this to candidates. Like if I don't think you're going to make it right now, I will tell you. And I like, I'm not trying to be rude. It's not a matter of disrespect. It's that like, I think it's important for everyone to hear honest feedback from people who know the market and know what they're talking about. And I have one example that I can remember where I told the guy, I don't think it's going to happen. And there was just nothing that could stop this kid from getting in. And he found a way and he got hired in Web3. And now we're very good friends. And I have so much respect for the hustle and the grind that it took. But not everyone can do that. And I think the type of person who, when someone says no, stop, they keep going, that's the kind of person that's going to make it in Web3, you know?
I have a question for you here, because basically, guys, you are saying no to Web2 professionals now, but everyone is waiting for the bull market. Isn't it kind of smarter to try to jump in the industry now, like educate yourself, and basically when there is a bull, you can like go on the wave?
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. But there's a difference between educating yourself, preparing yourself, growing the network, and actually getting paid to do this. You know what I mean? Like, and I definitely think people whose long-term goals are to come in to the space, now is a great time to build your network, to meet people and to get involved. And you will get an extra level of respect for doing that at this time, and rightfully so. But it will be hard to make a transition right now, and there's just no getting around that. I mean, I think, just to like outline maybe like why that is, right? Like, think about this. It's just, if you're a hiring manager, right, and you have two resumes in front of you, you have two candidates. If you're a hiring manager, if you're the head of BD at Lido and you're hiring a BD guy, you have one guy with, all the Web3 companies, all the, great experience and success, but he sucks in an interview. He's not good. Like your gut tells you, I don't really like this guy, but he has Chainlink, Layer 0, whatever on his resume. Then you have another candidate who is great in the interview. You like the guy, he's good fit, but he has all Web2 companies, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Well, maybe Facebook, Twitter is exception, but all Web2 companies. The reality is the hiring manager 9 out of 10 times is going to take the option that feels less risky. It's a risk reward thing. So even though you might want to place your personal bet on the person who did the interview better, the safe bet is to go with the person who's already done it. So in this market, when everyone's like conservative and nervous about, what's going to happen, you're going to make the safe bet most of the time.
Okay, next question. Okay, Web2 BDs out of the picture for now. Let's talk about junior BDs and senior BDs these days. How the job search is different for them. Like, what do you think, guys? Mic drop. So, yeah.
I could take a stab at answering this. So like it kind of segues nicely what we just were talking about. I mean, junior BDs, I don't know. I mean, I just think it's a lot more difficult. The barrier to entry is a lot more difficult right now for a junior BD professional. Just because what Dan was saying with the risk, involved in making these types of hires. I think that companies want to hire people with more experience right now that they can plug into their environment, especially some of these smaller startups that just raised. So that's what I'm seeing on my side. Obviously in the bull market, it was a lot different. You were getting people hired from outside the space. You were getting people hired that had a little bit of experience in the space. But right now, I'm seeing more of a demand for someone that has like 3 to 5 years of experience in the space, somewhere in that range. I mean, that's what I'm seeing at least.
I would like to share my experience for that. So we actually recently got a new team member who is actually junior BD, junior ProRel team in the case of Lido projects. And what I can say is that there are actually a lot of applications for junior roles, and so you need to have like more time to go through all the applications and to talk to people. And this is what requires, like additional effort to do that in comparison to senior roles, where you perform more proactive search and you target people you want to bring into the team.
I have a question. When you have such a competition and it's pretty tough, what makes a BD stand out in the job application and also in the interviews? I think it's a broad thing, but just like if you can put like 2 or 3 things that can take your attention.
Yeah, I would actually refer to Dan's comments on the previous question here, because what matters in our case, is definitely the motivation and the passion that the applicant demonstrates in the selection process. And this is shown by the interest to the industry, by what an applicant knows, even if he doesn't have a practical experience within the industry, and how he makes connections and how he or she talks to you. And and the eagerness that the guys demonstrate during the selection process, it's what makes the choice easier.
Yeah, anyone would like to add to motivation?
Sure. Yeah, so I agree with what everyone's saying. I think like responsiveness, I always measure responsiveness. How fast does the person follow up with you? What's the delay on their email responses? How prepared are they, to speak about the role and the project? Like someone that does their homework, someone that actually cares, someone that, like thinks about, like has a really good answer on why they're interested in the role and isn't just telling you they're driven on comp or commission. I mean, obviously we all are to some extent, but I think hiring managers want to hear that you're actually really interested in the work that the project is looking to accomplish. So, I mean, those are my general thoughts. I also think it does in a sales or a BD role, it's important that the person that is on the other side, like you find it easy to connect with that person. You would want to sit next to that person on a plane or in a coffee shop. Like you find that they're transparent. I mean, these are some of the characteristics that I look for. Like, did I actually enjoy the conversation? Did this person speak over me? Did they ask good questions? Those are some of the things I think of.
And I'd like to add that sometimes it's the case when a person already has some experience, but which is not just sufficient for middle or senior roles. So we may talk not only about people who are, the first comers, but also for the ones who already contributed to some projects. And it's now just the next step for them.
Yeah, I'll give you an example here, and disclaimer: don't try this at home. This is not for everyone, but this is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. I'll tell you a quick story. Junior candidate. He was a senior at Cornell. He hadn't even graduated yet. He had maybe like a month or two before he graduated, and he was looking for his first job in crypto. Again, no real experience. He found a company that he liked. He put together, before he applied, he put together a list of target customers that this company would want. He actually reached out to that list of customers and set up a call with one of them, pitching the product, and included screenshots of all of this in his application. This company hired him in like 12 hours. Like, I've never seen anything like this before. Again, I personally wouldn't really want someone pitching my product that doesn't work for me. So I don't really recommend this for everyone, but that level of hunger, that level of work ethic, commitment, like demonstration of understanding the product, that's what's going to separate you from the pack.
You have to be creative, I guess, especially nowadays. Anyone
100%.
wants to add anything, or we just move to another question?
I think actually what Dan just described would be a great example for Web2 BDs. Basically, go to Web3 company, pitch to your Web2 employer the company, and basically come with a big client to the Web3. Because I think
screenshots.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe one of the ways. You have nothing to lose because nobody will hire you in this market. So probably something like that can work. Actually, okay, I have a tricky question now. The trickiest one, but the most exciting. And I won't ask this question to Max and Dasha because I know confidentiality, etc. But Dan and Evan, you see basically the whole market. And can you please share the ranges in the market according to the geography base only? I'm not asking for full package. So let's keep some secret over there. But basically, what kind of ranges do you currently see, say, for senior BDs in Europe, US, and Asia?
Dan, you want me to go first? You want to go first?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be quick on this one. I mean, generally speaking, I think in the bull market we were seeing easily packages, base salaries from 200 to 250 base US dollars with like 300K, maybe like the top end. And I just think those numbers they're just not realistic anymore in this market. I mean, even for like senior BD with good experience, you got to remember that it's highly competitive. Like we've been saying, there's a lot of good people on the market. You're not the only good BD person on the market, right? And most of the time, startups at this point are indexing towards people who are going to be here for like a long term and are committed to the mission and not the cash package, which I know it can get old hearing that time and time again. I get it. But I think to price yourself competitively, I would say for a senior person, maybe like 175 to 200, and maybe for like a mid-level person, maybe 135, 140 to 170 range is probably where you want to be in the sweet spot. But I guess like what you want to make sure that your long-term incentives are what you're pushing for. And if a company is going to take that approach where, hey, I only raised $5 million, I can't pay you 250K, I can pay you 150. I think it's your job to negotiate a really, really strong upside or bonus package, whatever that looks like.
And do we speak now about the US? Because I feel like in Europe, the ranges are a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean that's a general range. But I think it's hard to say, and I do think that in general, like the barriers of global compensation differences, I think that's going to change more over time, and I think it already is. But for example, like everyone, we just had Token 2049 in Singapore, we just had Korea Blockchain Week, so everyone's focused on Asia. So I think the APAC market right now is extremely valuable, and a lot of my clients are switching their requirements from US to Hong Kong, Singapore, something like that. So I still think the value maintains over there in Asia. I think sometimes in Eastern Europe, maybe you have to work a little harder to show that your network translates well into like other markets if that's where you're applying to. But I don't know. Generally, I think, yeah, I mean, there's places of the world where things cost less and companies know that they can pay a little bit less. But I don't see it as like super drastic change. Personally, me, I see a good BD person maintains their value wherever they are in the world, like a good Cuban cigar, it's going to be the same price anywhere you get it.
Good answer. I like it. Evan?
I think the ranges from my perspective are in that 150 to 2 range, generally speaking, for like a mid to senior level, from my perspective. But I think it's important that the candidate like understands what their risk tolerance is. Like if you're looking to swing for the fences, if you want to hit a home run, you're probably better off going to a smaller startup and hoping that you have a chance to participate in the upside. I think that another thing that BD professionals sometimes are misled on is just like it's harder to find like roles in Web3 that are just heavily based on commission. So a lot of times you'll interview for a position and it will have a large amount of responsibility on the partnership side, and it won't be as commission driven. So if you're looking for something more stable, you might want to find a more established project where the compensation is a little bit more predictable. If you have the risk tolerance to take on something that is more high risk, you might be curious about taking a lower base, a 150 base, with some equity or with the potential that there's a project that you can come into where you get into a coin offering where obviously there's a lot of upside.
And I'll say one other thing on this, and I also want to hear from you, Dasha, like what you're seeing. And Zina, I mean, you guys are the BD people in the market. Would love to hear your perspective on that. But also, I would say, if one thing that I'm seeing as kind of common these days is, if a company is not going to offer you the compensation package that you need to, live your lifestyle or whatever. I've seen plenty of candidates pitching themselves as consultants or advisors, and saying, "Hey, I need 300K. If you can only pay me 150, that's okay. I believe in the project. I like it, but I'm also gonna sell something else as well. I'm also gonna, do consulting for another project because I need to get to that 300 number. You know what I mean?"
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We also have such practice with consulting, and so yeah. So actually, because you can consult separate project, and that's okay.
I actually had such experience, and I would say it was quite tough to have like two projects like at the same time, and one was like a centralized exchange, and another one was a company in Web3. Like to consult at the same time is pretty intense, actually. So I'd rather, like, my advice to BDs is like to actually get a full-time job in the company on the terms that you prefer, and kind of try and focus. And I've seen in many companies that they try to kind of incentivize the BDs in particular to really have a focus on what they are doing for the main job, and like not to spread their attention on any other things. Which I think is, if I was like an entrepreneur, and if I was the one who takes the person in the team, I would actually say so as well, honestly.
Then one more thing that I actually see as well, not just consulting. I see BDs, not devs, starting their own ventures, and it's not consulting. It's basically they just monetize their network because they see investors, they have connections basically, and they're starting doing like their own thing. And this is definitely part of it, I think, is related to the bear market, because the salaries are pressured a little bit. But part of it is actually, I think, is our market is maturing. And for me, it's like super interesting, because in the previous wave, for example, I didn't see of bear market, I didn't see as much of it. But this time, like BDs making their own businesses, I'm kind of excited about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, as an entrepreneur myself, I love to see other people, taking their business into their own hands, and starting up, figuring out other ways, like you said, creative ways to monetize their networks. And I love to see it. I support it any way I can. And Xenia, to your point about, it is hard. It is easier to work for one client than three, of course. But I mean, unfortunately, not everyone has the option. Like not everyone is able to lock down one full-time job that pays you what you need. And it's also a good way to expand your network. Sometimes taking these lower paying jobs for consultancy is really just a way for you to, it's really just something you can leverage to build out your network in another part of the space, have something else to offer, and then kind of use those new connections that you make for ultimately something different. And again, like, it's not ideal, but I would say don't rule it out, because a lot of people have no other option.
It's a fair point. I can understand that as well. And like, actually, well, a tricky one. What's the highest?
Yeah. Go ahead. No, Ksenia, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, what's the highest salary that you ever got a BD hired for? It's definitely a question to Dan and to Evan as well. Yeah.
Guys, and just to give more context on this question, like I was recently talking to BD, who is like very senior, but paid very low. So basically with this question, I want to be sure that we kind of put her there, like the ceiling outside of BDs. So like they would dream and get the salary that they want. So like let's see what the ceiling is in your experience.
We're gonna see the messages from the companies for the stream. Like, why did you put the question and put the salaries up? It's terrible, guys. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, Dan.
I mean, Dan, go ahead, sir.
No, you're good.
300K was the largest base salary that I've seen, but keep in mind that was in the bull market, and that was one signal, and most of them are in that 125 to 2 range. So, be careful when you get a high base, because that doesn't necessarily translate to a good compensation package, right? It's all relative, because if I look back at the coin offering that individual got, it's worth close to nothing. So it all depends again on what your risk tolerance is.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, to be honest, I don't think I've placed anyone higher than 250K package, even in the bull market. Again, like, I think it would have been possible. Maybe I didn't have the right candidates, but yeah, 250 is my highest BD placement.
Okay, I'm a little bit disappointed right now. I was expecting like $500,000, and I was like, okay, maybe one day I can dream, but no,
Well,
not
it's
yet.
not to say that person can't make $500,000 or hasn't made half. There's plenty of people who've made way more on the back end than they have on the salary, and that's the hope. That's the goal, right? That's the only way to get to those big numbers.
I agree completely. I think you're better off hitting a home run at 150 than you are at 300 on the back end. So I'd be skeptical about anyone coming in with a super high base. But I hope I'm not like upsetting anyone with that comment.
I like that. Special effects.
Yes, actually, we have one question from the audience. I think it would be cool if we take it. So the question is like, I think it's more for Max and Dasha, but Evan and Dan, feel free to jump in. So the question is, what you guys think would make an ideal BD team from a hiring perspective? So size, mix of junior, senior, or all seniors, BDs who can bring a strategy plan to the table immediately, or they can develop later. So like pretty much open mic here.
Yeah, I kind of have a broad perspective on like team constructs. Like, it's so variable on the project, the size, the scale. Like, it's literally like is how long a piece of string question is. But like my broad comments are, situation dependent. You want longevity in a team, and that comes by having a functioning group of seniors, mids, and then people you're bringing through with the right energy and thoughts for the team. That changes, of course, if you're a super small protocol. You just have a very small team of seniors, and that changes if you're in a high frequency environment where you have a big like SDR team and BDR team. But that's like my broad comments, I guess.
Anyone else want to comment on here?
Yeah, I think that's just a tough question to answer. Like, it just varies. There's so many, you got to be more specific. It's just like there's a lot of variables. I think it's just a tough one to answer.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, from like being BD back at 0x, I totally align with Max. It really depends on the company situation here.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, if you ask a founder of a startup, he'll say one senior person who can do everything.
And die in 1 year, probably.
Exactly. And never get his equity.
Yes, totally. Auto invested. Okay, so maybe I want to continue with fun questions because, and maybe then we can come back to a little bit more serious ones. So, guys, again, in your experience, more like Dan and Evan, what did you see as the most unusual case where you have hired like BD in DeFi? I will give you one example. On Saturday, I talked to a guy who came into DeFi, not BD, technical guy, which is even more surprising, from Ballet. And I was like, do you dance still? He was, no, now I do jiu-jitsu and I'm preparing for world championship and do DeFi. So these kind of cases, have you encountered?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is there was a BD guy that was working for the New York Jets that we helped transition into Web3, but he was kind of working in the space already, like doing some work on the NFT side. But I just thought it was interesting that that we took somebody that was working, for an NFL team and put them on a payments project.
That's cool. Yeah, I had a guy who was a barista once. He made coffee, but the way that he was an easy sell was because his Twitter game was so strong. I mean, if you look up this guy, his name is Merp, MERP on Twitter. I mean, I placed him in a growth role before, and yeah, I mean, he's a barista when I met him.
And what about the Twitter? Like, I mean, is it because he posted actively about something that happened in crypto space, or why?
Yeah,
would
so
you-
he was, while he was making coffee, he was also trading crypto in his personal account, and he was really, really good trader. So he knew the market extremely well. And so, he got really well known on Twitter for posting, about the shit coins and, current events and trends and all this kind of stuff. And he just developed like a really good following, a really good voice. And at the end of the day, BD is all about the network that you have. And when you go on his Twitter page and you see the type of people that follow him are highly respected, highly valuable individuals that work in the space, I mean, there's something there. He's doing something right. And he's able to capture an audience and deliver a message. And that's what BD is all about.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like we talked a lot about motivation and responsiveness when it comes to BDs, and like obviously to know the market and the differences in the protocols. But how about like top qualities that you look, like the hard skills of BDs that you actually look for in Web3 space? It's also a question, I think, to the team and to the recruiters.
Maybe to make it easier, just name one that
Okay.
pops to your mind, basically. The first one.
Product knowledge.
Relationships with protocols.
Like interest in protocols, I guess.
Okay, interesting. So we have interest in protocols, relationship with protocols, and product knowledge, right? Then did I get it right? So basically,
I would like to add as well, I think one of the most important ones, like when it comes to hard skills, is determination, because you really need to push things. And the place is always like when you join a team, it's quite often that the processes are not in place, which is quite fine. And this is the specific trait of the industry. But you need to be really determined to push things. And also to learn quite a lot about protocols and everything that pops up. Yeah.
Okay, true. And continuing with quick questions, but tricky ones. So you look at a lot of CVs of candidates. So honest answer, like, because to completely destroy, or maybe the other way around, the illusions of the candidate. So how much time do you spend looking at one CV?
So the resume should never be long, right? So that, like, if it's too long, it's obviously not a good sign. So I scan the resume. I could do it probably in 5 to 10 seconds and figure out, whether it has legs. And it's just a quick, like, what projects are you working on? How's your job history? How do you write your bullets? What's your style of the way that you write? Because it tells me a lot. Like, are you bragging too much about yourself? Are you a team player? Just try and figure out those signs, those signals. Do you ramble on too much? If the resume is too long, I get the sense that you might. So I can tell pretty quickly, I'd say within like 10 seconds, whether or not the resume has legs. And if it does, then I go in a little deeper.
I would agree. 10 seconds.
Okay, interesting.
Maybe 30 seconds if I really like the guy.
Okay, how do you come from 10 seconds to 30 seconds? What's the difference? 20 seconds.
I mean, if I do the 10-second scan, like Evan said, and something catches my attention as interesting, then I'll look deeper into that, and maybe I'll go to maybe I'll go to their LinkedIn and check them out a little bit. But they have 10 seconds to capture my attention.
Okay, now a personal question from my experience then with you in the past. So if I come out to you on the conference, would you spend and I talk to you a little bit, would it increase my chances of you looking at my CV? Or basically, how do I get your attention
Absolutely.
other ways around?
Absolutely, 100%. But I looked at your CV anyway before, and that's why when you came up to me, I knew who you were, and like, you know what I mean? Like it was friendly vibes from the beginning. But yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, that's definitely a good point. I mean, that's a way to stand out is I'm one of the reasons I think I stand out from other recruiters in the space. Respect to everyone out there doing their thing, but I think one thing that makes me unique is I'm outside. You know what I mean? I'm in the rooms. I'm at the conferences. I'm speaking at the conferences. We're here on this panel together. Like this is how you stand out. And for example, I had never met Xenia before, but this tells me that okay, she's building a community. She's committed to the space. She's doing organizing things like this to deliver a message. And I think even that alone, like meeting online, but basically anything outside of like the transactional nature of the recruiting relationship is impactful because it's a signal as to your level of commitment to the space and your passion.
I love your answer.
Yeah. And I think that we have about 10 minutes. Just wanted to put attention to that. And maybe we have time for like 2 more questions and we're going to wrap it up. And I have one. We touched upon a bit and I want to explore it further on about the culture in Web3 companies. I know, well, I've been in this space for 6 years and I know how different it is from Web2, but I want to have your opinions. Like how would you define it and what a person that would like to enter this space should think about in terms of Web3 culture and how it's related to a team. Who would like to answer? Maybe Evan?
I think you just have to have like a startup mindset. You have to be able to pivot. You have to be able to work autonomously. I think that's the main thing for my takeaway. Like there are a lot of things that happen in this space that are unpredictable. You have to be able to multitask, take on multiple things at once, and just realize that you may not get things done and you may be asked to pivot, and that's just the nature of the space.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I would say I mean 2 things. Like number 1, like at the end of the day, people buy from people. Like, you know what I mean? So in Web 2 or Web 3, that much hasn't changed for BD people. Like short and sweet, you have to be likable and people have to want to spend time with you and want to spend their money on you. That hasn't changed from Web 2 to Web 3. But I think what the main difference is 2 things. Like, I mean, we all grew up in Web 2, right? So like, it's not like you have to be super passionate about whatever the hell it is you're selling that you can only get so passionate about something that you grew up using and playing with or whatever. Like it's just what you know. But in Web3, it's an absolute requirement that you be so obsessed and passionate about being here that it radiates off the paper, no matter how much people like you and how cool you are and how many friends you can make in a conference, whatever. You have to be passionate about what you're working on. And anyone who's passionate about this will take a couple hours at night to learn a little bit about, the trends of the new, whether it's roll-ups, RWAs, whatever's going on. So I think, you have to actually do the research. And I think for BD people, some BD people are used to getting by in Web 2 by just being cool, and that's not enough to get it done over here. You actually have to be smart. You actually have to know what you're selling, because the people you're selling to are technical, are smart, are involved, are doing the research. And if they ask you questions and you don't know how to answer questions about the product, they're not going to be comfortable like buying anything from you. So you have to know your shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel so as well. And actually, I realized that we have some questions from audience that we might want to take. We covered one about CVs. Do you actually look at the cover letters as well? And do you expect
Absolutely not.
candidates?
Absolutely not. No
Really?
cover letters. No cover letters.
Okay.
I mean, it's kind of like the voicemails being is going extinct too. Like how many people leave voicemails here? Like, I mean, maybe once in a while, but like, like a text message is a voicemail. So it's kind of like a cover letter is the same thing. It's unfortunately it's just not, they're not being read.
Yeah,
What I
I
have
agree.
seen though, that some companies, they have the questions that you need to elaborate and answer on when you send the CV along, which might be something similar to a letter like of motivation, but more like be very specific on the questions that they kind of pose in the application form. So I guess
And that makes a lot of sense, because that's just saying like, hey, are you interested in working for us? If you are, you'll put the time in and you'll answer these questions. And I get it. And if you're not, we probably shouldn't waste our time. So that, from that perspective, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, I
And then
actually
there's
disagree
another.
with that. I actually disagree with that. I think in this market, there's so many good BD people floating around that sometimes companies that aren't, let's say they're not Lido or Binance, whatever, you should be happy that there's good resumes coming to you and there's good people in your pipeline. And sometimes it's incumbent upon the client to actually sell the opportunity to the candidate, And I think I think the best of the best BD people are not filling out your stupid form, bro. You know what I mean? Like I got too many people in my Telegram wanting to work with me at all times. Like, I don't have time to answer your stupid questions. And if you want to miss out on the opportunity to hire me, then that's on you. That's how I think about it. I know that's not like, I know that's a hot take.
That's fair. Look, I can't argue that philosophy. I don't think you're wrong. That's fair, because I would think along those lines in certain situations as well.
Yeah.
And another one, which can be a long one though, but I would like to take it anyways. How should a candidate negotiate their BD salary? Maybe some examples from your past experience where a candidate successfully negotiated the salary even when it was non-negotiable.
The best data point is to have another offer to leverage, like, and to indicate that your first choice is to work for them, but their offer is better. That's the best way I think you could start to negotiate an offer. Give them the sense that you want to work there, but let them know that there's another offer that's better. If you don't have another offer, then your choice is to say like, hey, where I'm at, here's my compensation. It's better than what you're framing. Is there any way we could bridge the gap here? I think those are the things that I would focus on. But most important thing is to give, if you're trying to negotiate, make sure the employer like has the confidence that you want to work there and that you're just not negotiating for the hell of it.
I love you, Evan, but I got to disagree again. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a pain in the ass here, but
look, it's fine.
I think a good BD person understands the value prop that they bring to the table. And the reality is, the value that you bring to a company like Lido, you might not bring the same value to a company like Binance, because your network is different and they do different things and they're not always apples to apples relevant. So I think the best way to negotiate, honestly, is to understand your own value prop, what you bring to the table. And if you can't sit back and think about that and have a clear understanding of what you're worth to them, then you're going to have trouble negotiating. You have to paint the picture of, hey, I'm worth this because this is what I can do for you based on my network, my skills, my experience and all that. And, if you don't see it, I'm confident that someone else will. Or I'll go to your competitor. I'll go to your direct competitor and get an offer. Then what are you going to do?
So yeah, I agree with what Dan's saying. I don't even know he disagrees with me. I still agree with most of what he's saying. But the key here is like to piggyback what he's saying. You can't just say I want 180, and if the offer is 160, you've got to have data points on why it's 180. You can't just ask for a number. Like what's behind the number? Tell me how you got to the higher number. Like if the candidate can't build a case on how they got to their number, then we all assume that it's bullshit.
Yeah, that I'm definitely in agreement.
I was just trying to say something you would agree with. So
Sorry, man. Sorry.
I have a final question probably before we wrap up. It's a little bit romantic. So guys, basically a question, how do you envision the future of talent in DeFi, like of hiring in Web3? Because right now it's quite, and how it will impact BD professionals? Because right now it's a little bit Web2, because like you get referrals, you get CV, it's stored on some centralized servers. So not much of it is actually Web3 native, let's put it this way. And it's all fashioned people relations. So what do you think will happen? How Web3 will change the industry and how will it affect us?
Damn, that beeping has got to go. I would say, my short answer for this one is I can't wait until the time comes where we have more room for Web2 people to come and be a part of this beautiful golden like era that's going on in crypto. Where there's great people building great things with, amazing cultures. And, I would say for the next 6 to realistically 12 months, I don't see it changing much right now in the near future. But I think, 2025 maybe we'll be able to take, have more money and more opportunity for Web2 people. And, I hope that, that comes as soon as possible. Right now, I don't see it changing in the near future. That's my take.
Anyone else? Open mic, but not insisting.
yeah, I mean, I think the same thing. It's going to take it'll take a few years, but like there's always these peaks and valleys in the space, and we're obviously in a valley, but like the peak will come quicker than you think. So you have to, like we were talking about earlier, you have to prepare for it. Like the mindset should be like, how can I position myself to get in a year from now? Not like a year from now when the market picks up is when you decide you want to get in. So the plan should be not to break in now, but to start to think about like how to lay the foundation so that you're ahead of most people when the market does turn.
Salute.
Yeah, my view is the same as at the start, right? Like during downturns, the best work happens, in my opinion. So like now is the time to be a part of the circle, get into the circle, because you just haven't got the hype that's associated, like 2 summers ago, where you just get so many people entering. There's so much space for people, but there's not a lot of quality. Now there's just like minimal volume, but really high quality normally. So like now is a time that I would be. That is the best time to get in my opinion, albeit it's the hardest time to get in.
True. On this note, I think we can wrap up because it's 1 hour already. Guys, to be honest, I love to have you today on the session. And to the people from the audience, if you have any more follow-up questions, we are happy to address them offline to the team that is present today. And again, thank you to Evan, Dan, Max, and Dasha for this presence. Honestly, open-minded, eye-opening even for me. And I've been in the space for 6-7 years already, and I've been interviewing a lot. So thank you so much. Really appreciate your time here.
Yeah, it was
Thanks. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for setting it up.
Thanks,
it was
everyone.
good to see everyone. Take care.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care.
Thank you.